JP Morgan is quoted as saying, "Millionaires don't believe in astrology, billionaires do." And if you want to know how some people are tying rare celestial events that you could see with your naked eye probably this year, and how they're tying that to massive XRP price explosions, also prophecies that accurately predicted Bitcoin's price in the past with astronomical predictions for the very near future, I want to cover all this not because I'm trying to get you all hyped and pump some kind of crypto. I want to cover it because what these crypto prophets are talking about, they're missing the forest for the trees like historic baggage. These celestial events also seem to be touching upon things like institutionalized racism and race-based eugenics being stamped out. So first of all, I want you all to locate that subscribe button and that notification button. It's somewhere down there. Press them. Now, let's get into that first story to see how history may play out this time around.
JP Morgan, he said that millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And so let's dive into what astrology has to do with XRP, this account right here, Bearable Guy 123, and what some of these cartoon images mean. The main thing that's happening right now, you can see it just by the eyes of the bear, is the direction that it's looking. Also the eyes of the king, the direction that it's looking. And it's all looking in the same place. It's right here at what looks like a star in the night sky with this knight, Brad Garlinghouse, in a rocket blasting off to the moon. But if we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see there's three things happening in this image. There's a circle behind this star that looks like it's exploding here, and then you see another circle right here hidden behind the window frame. Now, if you guys watched my previous video, we talked about how this could potentially be T Corona Borealis, hinting at a major eruption coming soon. And if we just ask Grok when was the last time TCRB exploded, it was in February of 1946, and it has roughly an 80-year explosion cycle, making it visible to the naked eye for a short period of time. And historical records also confirm earlier outbursts such as 1866. And if we just asked what else happened around the explosion in the finance banking industry that was monumental around that exact same time, this is where things get very interesting. One of the most significant events was the establishment of the Bretton Woods system, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, which began its operations in 1946. The IMF officially started December 27, 1945, but its first major activities, including the initial meeting of its Board of Governors, took place in 1946. And the World Bank began its operations June 25, 1946. And these institutions were monumental because they laid the foundation for a new global financial order aimed at stabilizing currencies, promoting international trade, and funding post-war reconstruction. Also, another major event was the economic fallout from the Civil War. The US Treasury was managing a massive war debt of over $2.7 billion. In that same year, Congress passed the Contraction Act, authorizing the Treasury to begin withdrawing greenbacks from circulation to return to the gold standard. And even overseas, Europe faced its own financial upheaval in 1866, often called the Panic of 1866, triggering a massive banking crisis in Britain, where the Bank of England refused to bail out, leading to a run on banks and a liquidity crunch. And if we asked Grok when it would predict the next explosion of T Corona Borealis in the month, the day, and the year, it's guessing November 10th of 2025. Now here's where this gets really weird, because the global implementation of ISO 222 standard for cross-border payments is scheduled to be completed by when? November of 2025. The last two times that TCRB exploded was 1946, which was the establishment of the Bretton Woods system, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and also the Panic of 1866 that directly affected banks globally. This is why JP Morgan's quote is more important than ever before. Again, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Now, here's where this gets a little weird, because when we go to the gematria calculator here that I've showed you in previous videos and we look up T Corona Borealis, it comes up as the Great Reset. It also comes up as XRP, the standard, biblical prophecy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate what you just heard right there. There's this guy on X who's been making cartoons that are basically predicting XRP's price going to outer space. Not to the moon, as most people say. It's actually to something specific called T Corona Borealis. Brad Garlinghouse is implicated in there, but not long after getting a tattoo of the XRP logo on his shoulder with astrological alignments around it. If anyone's making these cartoons or putting them into the grand theater, he's probably in on it, and it's probably a marketing scheme. Deep underneath the conspiracy and is this really accurately predicting stuff? Yeah, if I put a cake in the oven, I can accurately predict when it will be a cooked cake. Okay, if I want other people to not know about it and that cake is actually a price that I want to pump because I'm in the billionaire class and there's liquidity that I could fuck with to make things do what I want it to do, so people think that this is all written in the stars when really it was taken from the stars and another image was transposed over top of it. That's kind of what I think is happening right here, to give my honest opinion about it. Now, this is centered around the T Corona Borealis event that NASA is saying that we could see later this year. The previous explosions, which aren't real explosions, just illuminated events in the sky, they happened on February 9th, 1946, and May 12th, 1986. But because I'm not trying to predict asset prices right here, I looked deeper into the significance of these dates, and I looked beyond just what happened to the monetary system. Take 1866, for example. A very important Andrew made a pissy move on March 27th, 1866. That's right. Andrew Rankin patented the urinal. And in much lesser news, on that same day, Andrew Johnson, sitting president, vetoed the Civil Rights Act. Congress, 159 years ago today, overruled his veto and turned the Civil Rights Act into the 14th Amendment. This act of Congress gave formerly enslaved people citizenship, and it also guaranteed them certain rights. Now let's look at 1946 through the lens of race and not money, so I can paint a different picture there for you too. Yes, in 1946, massive things like the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, Bretton Woods Agreement, money changed this year drastically. But check this out. This was the year we saw the first meeting of the United Nations, which would then go on to house billionaires that are attempting to hijack all power and wealth under the guise of global disasters. But I digress. It was also the year that concluded the Nuremberg trials, and it convicted 22 Nazi leaders of war crimes. Okay, Google left out Operation Paperclip, where the most intelligent of those Nazi leaders were shipped to the Americas so we could use them. This was also the year the first automated digital computer was dedicated at the University of Pennsylvania, and then the Army took it.
The news media called it a giant brain. Its computing speed was 1,000 times greater than that of electromechanical machines.
Now let's stay on point. Imagine that this cosmic explosion is intimately tied not only to monetary reform in history, but also massive racial volatility, and also with automated computers. Well, if history doesn't repeat, it's rhyming right now. Let's watch this next video to appreciate just what this cosmic event is.
T Corona Borealis, also known as the Blaze Star, might soon burst into view in the night sky. This binary star system, located in the constellation Corona Borealis, consists of a white dwarf and a red giant locked in a cosmic dance. The white dwarf pulls hydrogen from its red giant companion, and when enough builds up, it triggers a thermonuclear explosion, a nova. This burst of light could be bright enough to see with the naked eye, outshining nearby stars for a few nights. The last time this happened was nearly 80 years ago, in 1946. Astronomers are excited because this upcoming event offers a rare chance to observe a nova with modern technology, providing fresh insights into stellar evolution and binary star interactions. If the Blaze Star does flare up, it could become one of the most stunning celestial events of the year. To learn more about it, watch our full YouTube video.
Personally, whether you believe that this cosmic event is anything at all, if you're a flat earther and you believe it's just a dome up there and there's some kind of ether or liquid above it, it still means there's cosmic events happening, unless they're all holograms. Personally, this is something that's cool. Aside from the XRP price, this is something I'm going to tell my kids about, and hopefully we get to witness this once in a fourth turning event as a family. P.S. The reason why I said the fourth turning there is because it's an 80-year cycle, just like the T Corona Borealis event, where during its final stages, war and collective upheaval leads to massive social transformation. Just remember that. Every 80 years, there's a war. There's also financial and social reform. But Also, beware, I'm a conspiracy guy. I'm not one of your normal news outlets. I'm not trying to sell you a crypto pump. I think it's fascinating how cycles of time can teach you a lot about the world that you live in, as well as correlate to financial movements, but that's as far as my interest goes into it. Let's look a little bit deeper at the XRP mystery and how this connects a little bit to Donald Trump.
And here's where the plot thickens and how this connects to Bearable Guy's other image that he posted here, with the bear playing cards at a poker table with the knight, the king, and then a few other characters with this image on the wall. And this arm ringing a bell with green, yellow, and purple right here under the bell, which is basically a slideshow-esque movement. Because really, a bell only has one bell inside of it that makes the sound. So it's basically signaling step 1, step 2, step 3. Green, yellow, purple. Now, the sails on the boat are also green, yellow, and purple. Also, the stockings above the fireplace are green, yellow, purple. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But the most important thing to focus on in this specific cartoon image is this hand right here ringing the bell, and the artist took off one of the buttons on the sleeve and put it right here on the floor by the rug. Now here's why this is important. December 12th, after Brad Garlinghouse announced that they have final approval from the New York Department of Financial Services for Ripple stablecoin, Trump rung the opening bell at where? The New York Stock Exchange. So Trump became the first U.S. president to ring the New York Stock Exchange bell since Ronald Reagan, saying, I think we're going to have a tremendous run. But we have to straighten out some problems, some big problems in the world, which is why he's now signing more executive orders in a short period of time than he's ever signed. So is it just a coincidence here that the button that's missing on the sleeve of the hand ringing the bell, and Donald Trump missing a button on his sleeve, also ringing the New York Stock Exchange bell, and another little Easter egg right by Trump's hand, we can see this hammer here, or this wooden gavel, whatever you call that thing. Could it be the same one in this image with the triskelion right here above the fireplace? So in my opinion, I don't think all of this is a coincidence. I think it's very strategically planned, because why would 60 Minutes release this interview with Brad Garlinghouse December 8th, the same week that Ripple announced the SEC dropping its appeal, the New York Department of Financial Services giving the green light for Ripple stablecoin, and Donald Trump ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, all back to back to back. Plus, how strange is it that Donald Trump's missing a button on his jacket, and also this hand right here that's ringing the bell is missing a button as well too. Plus, Donald Trump is wearing a purple tie right here, which, as you already know, green, purple, and yellow seems to be a recurring theme in these riddles, and also is the color of these flags right here above this castle with Bitcoin in green, XRP in purple, and the US dollar in yellow. So maybe that's just a coincidence, or maybe Trump knows something that the average person doesn't.
So first of all, I feel like I have to say this to you, even though I think me having to say this to you is ridiculous, but I do not care about Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I've never voted in my life. I take a look at things that are happening in the world, and if I have to use Trump's name, it's not because I like him or I'm tying him to some great cosmic plan. What I'm doing is I'm just showing you that other people are tying him to some great cosmic plan. So Trump rang the New York Stock Exchange bell with a cufflink missing, and this starts to smell vaguely familiar to the QAnon those Q drops and those old books, because I saw this back in 2020. Rogan is talking about it now, but The Last President and Baron von Trump, these are books that supposedly came out long, long ago. It's being made to look like all of these books came out way back then. There's also the name Elon and Elon's family history and Trump's family history, and these books that I just said, Baron von Trump and The Last President, they all get into these characters. One is called Elon, and they're really, really kind of driving towards what we're seeing today in a hinted fashion. If they really did come out back then the world is a stage and this has been set up for a long time anyway. If not, then I think today you can make a case for, on Amazon, why after the Maui fires, it was the day after the Maui fires, I found out that there was a book about the Maui fires that came out a day before the Maui fires. There's no possible way in hell except for foresight, knowing the event would happen, or the dates got mixed up on Amazon, and that's how you can make this seemingly old book look very, very old, like it came out 100 years ago when really it didn't. There's just articles talking about how 100 years ago this shit happened, it maybe didn't happen at all. Now, moving on. I'm not a huge fan on gematria, where you take the letters of a sentence, you break it down into numbers, and you can come up with different codes based upon it. That's what gematria is. On this XRP case settled thing, that's kind of cool, but it just makes me think that this whole thing is staged, because the world is a stage. For those who understand that story drives reality, if you understand that, and the priesthoods behind the thrones for thousands of years have understood that story drives reality. So if you understand this, then if you can set up future seemingly prophetic things, then it makes it look like, oh, this is all happening according to God's plan, when really it's people. It's just like adults making it seem like the Easter Bunny left all those eggs, or it was Santa Claus that left all those packages. And man, doesn't it just drive the point home when all the other kids are talking about the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus? I smell bullshit, but that's just because I'm skeptical. Go to my previous stories on YouTube and you'll see just how powerful story is. I talk a lot about this, and I think it's being waged against us in order for wealth transfer to happen right now. And wealth isn't just money, it's also land. And I see land grabs happening, and the UN is very highly implicated in it. But I won't get into that right now. My fascination with all this is because I don't believe the Republican-Democrat divide. The social divide is real because people believe the story. But the real divide at the top, it's not real. I made a whole film on it called Land of the Free. But so I don't keep digressing, let's now get into the Bitcoin prophecy that I was telling you about at the beginning. And to set it up, remember that Bitcoin maxis love saying that Bitcoin is like Christ because there's an immaculate conception. Well, no one knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, so that's why they're saying it's an immaculate conception. I think it's a stretch. Some people do know who Satoshi is or who they were. And if it wasn't conceived, the notion wasn't conceived by Satoshi Nakamoto, it was conceived by somebody. It wasn't an immaculate conception. It was just orchestrated by people in private, in secret. A lot of things were. By the way, Creature of Jekyll Island conceived the whole idea of the Federal Reserve, and there was a lot of cartoons 100 or 80 years ago talking about that shit. So this prophecy is interesting. I'll just let you hop into it now.
All right, so we all know that price predictions are crazy. They're almost never right, except for when they become a prophecy. Josh Mandell, who back in November 2024, when Bitcoin was $74,000, predicted that on March 14th, a day known as Pi Day, that Bitcoin would reach exactly $84,000 to the dollar. 8 p.m. Eastern rolls around. I refresh Twitter, and depending on the exchange people were looking at, Bitcoin finished the day at exactly $84,000. Now, some people joked, Josh either controls $10 billion of liquidity or he speaks to angels. But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is what he said would happen if he ended up being right. Because in that same prediction that he made way back in November, he said that if we reach 84K, the next price target would be $444,402.75. $444,402.75. Now, where he gets that extra $402.75 is part of the mystery. But people are saying that if he was able to get that first part of his prediction so specifically back from November of last year, it makes sense that the second part of that prediction could come true as well. And the crazy part is that all of Josh's numbers reduce down to 3s, 6s, and 9s. This is about to blow your mind. I don't know if it explains anything, but the coincidence is kind of scary. For example, his original price prediction, which was $84,000, reduces down to 3. Here's how. 8 plus 4 equals 12, and then 1 plus 2 equals 3. Then the date, 11/5/2024, November 5th, which is when he made his first prediction. That reduces down to 6. Here's how. 1 plus 1 plus 5 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 equals 15, then 15 can be reduced to 1 plus 5, which is 6. And it gets crazier. His $444,402.75 has a digital root of 3. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 0 plus 2 plus 7 plus 5 equals 30. And 3 plus 0 equals 3. And his short position, when Bitcoin was at 105,000, has a digital root of 6. So we have 3, 6, 3, 6. Added together is 18. And 1 plus 8 reduces to 9. Oh, and remember that extra $402.75 on top of his base prediction? That reduces down to 9 as well. So we have our pairs of 3s, 6s, and 9s. Now, I don't know if that necessarily explains anything, but his predictions do have a very interesting mathematical symmetry to them that I think Nikola Tesla probably would have been like, I knew it.
All right. I know you've heard a lot about prophecies, and I'm giving you a lot of information here. I'm trying to get you to understand that these things that look prophetic are probably just people that are playing 4D chess. It's not superhuman to play 4D chess. You just have to know 4D chess is a thing that you can do to lesser aware people. And then once you learn the rule set, which is learnable, then you play 4D chess, you wait a little bit of time, and then all of a sudden people think it's magic. When Arthur C. Clarke said, any sufficiently advanced technology, which 4D chess is indistinguishable from magic. And the fine print there is, it's indistinguishable from magic to those who know less, right? So the T Corona Borealis thing, it has the same 3 letters as the ticker symbol for Bitcoin, BTC. Also, Corona makes me think of COVID, which started the 40% loss in the US dollar's purchasing power thanks to the Federal Reserve printing so much money. But I digress again. If I were to give you any advice, I would say don't hold dollars for the future as a store of wealth, because purchasing power is, let's say there's a lot of holes in that boat. A lot of your money is going to slip through those cracks. Buy assets if you can. If you can't, just do the best that you can with the information that you have available to you. All right, back to the conspiracy. This is what conspiracy has always been: a theatrical story imposed upon unwitting masses to control their collective behavior. Why? A lot of the times it's for wealth transfer. It's kind of cool that these Bitcoin price predictions all reduce to 3s, 6s, and 9s, but most of all, it might just show you that the billionaire class that likes astrology, they also like numerology, and they like fucking with you by using Nikola Tesla memes. All this to me is showing that this has been orchestrated without conspiracy theorists knowing how to prove that it's all been orchestrated. So to the lower masses, it looks like cosmic events are aligning, when really the conspiracy theorists are trying to show, no, there's a pattern here. And I can show you this pattern is repeating. And the pattern's probably going to keep repeating, because not only is it in our deep-seated or racial memory, it's also being pumped into our social media, which is targeted to the people that are susceptible to these kinds of stories getting out there. I personally believe that financial markets are all going on the blockchain in the future, and Bitcoin might be digital gold, Ethereum and XRP might be huge rails for the future of finance. But what about the racial component to those T Corona Borealis events in the past? That's kind of what I want to get into underneath price movements, is what about the fact that in 1946, the first automated digital computer came online? I wonder if this is another reason why racial tensions and AI, another level of automation, is so hot in the news right now. Like, it's in the racial memory of our species. And the fights of the past need to find healing in the present moment for there to be a future that honors our children. What about that? I think all these areas are opportunities for us to step into the human that we're meant to become. Like, society is using this 4D chess to remind us of past deeds that need to be healed in the present. It's like society's trying to create the Ubermensch, the superhuman. the one that is not just driven by impulses and social panic, but the one that uses love as a strategy rather than confusion and stupid little riddles? What if these celestial events of the T Corona Borealis come as a sign that we are significant? And so is right now the time that we find ourselves in. So please let that be the message that you're hearing here. Not that you need to bank all your money on Bitcoin or XRP, but that this is a moment that is magically ripe for your consciousness to heal past wrongs. And if you find that this is the time where racism needs to be brought up, or when you take a look at the fact that the automated computer started last T Corona Borealis explosion, there may be something here for you to look at. And it may not mean you'll be massively wealthy if you do, or that you'll be on the right side of social justice if you do, but it might mean that in these moments, if you take the bait and you risk, but you risk for the right reason, then maybe beautiful things will happen in your life. That's all the news I have for you today. I'll catch y'all next time on Waking Infinity News.